And welcome. Good morning, New Hampshire, on the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath. And it wasn't many hours ago. We went to bed last night after our election night coverage at St. Anselm College. Thank you, Neil Vec, gracious host to the West Wing. And yesterday morning, Nikki Haley and Donald Trump kicked off the first hour live on Good Morning New Hampshire. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. And when it's all said and done, J Dog, you and Josh with Veasan, you do your picks for the NFL, and it's all about points and under and over. And it's not about me, but I think I had it about right. I was saying from the weekend on, it felt about 12 points difference. And I think the net is, and we have great experts, Dr. Vic in our studios, Dr. Vikram Mancharamani, of course, host of Navigating Uncertainty in his latest book, because he is quite the generalist. Feels like I just said goodnight to you a few hours ago, but here you are in the studio. But it feels like before we bring in Ted Kitchens, Manchester Boston Regional Airport, it feels like the path for Trump and the Republican nomination is a direct one right now, and a lot more clear than Nikki Haley's, because the next contest, we don't have to get into the analysis right now, is Nevada. She's not all in there. And then her home state of South Carolina. I think the big question is, she said last night she's in it for the long haul. But Chris Christie said that a few weeks ago too, and I think DeSantis thought he was in it longer, and we'll see where it plays out. But how are you this morning? Get some sleep? Well, I think you kinda stay very busy, so, and well, and congrats on your latest, book. Coming up, we're gonna hear from Mike Denny as well, some of our political analysts and all-stars. Before we do, we have the great one, Ted Kitchens, Manchester Boston Regional, Airport Executive Director. We do have a little bit of snow out there, mixture of stuff on the roadways. That doesn't really hopefully affect the airways, but always like to get an update in a very busy time of year. Ted, good morning. No, no, you're important. We like hearing this news because some people are not totally aware of all the great stuff happening there. Good stuff, good stuff. How are the travel patterns looking now that we're not into the school vacation stuff in February yet, but we're not that far away? What is some of the cool stuff happening? Yeah, and I agree with that, but also I just think just regular people from Maine, Mass, and New Hampshire that have the good sense to fly out of Manchester, Boston Regional Airport. I think we did have a cold snap last week. We've had the rain period. It's been kind of weird since the holidays, but we're going to get really into the throes of February and March here, and that seems like you get a lot of migration south. Yep. All right. Thanks, Ted. Ted Kitchens, Manchester, Boston Regional Airport. Congrats to your team. Great, great extra work. All right, Mike Dennehy, one of the great ones with us last night, of course, and he managed not one but two winning New Hampshire presidential primary campaigns for the late John McCain. Michael, we just signed off last night with you. Good morning. Hope you got some rest and sleep. What are your takeaways? Nikki Haley says the race is far from over. We'll come back to that, but kind of feels like Trump did what he needed to do, and maybe it's more direct for him now going forward. Oh, I do because you're the best. Yeah.
And this morning, the final number, the final margin, it was 12 points. But if once you look inside the numbers, it's just plain bad. Donald Trump received 75% of the registered Republicans yesterday. 75% among Republicans. This is a Republican primary. So Haley won 65% of the independent vote, which, as you may remember, I have said all along, she needed to win 65% of the independent vote to overcome Donald Trump's strength. But his strength, he was even stronger among Republicans than expected. So she got 65% of the independent vote, but only 45% of independents only 45% of the Republican vote was independent. I actually thought it might be a little higher, but it wasn't.
Yeah, so, Mike, good morning. It's Vikram here also joining you.
Vikram.
So look, I agree. Look, it was a good night for Donald Trump, but I'm not so sure I would classify it as a disaster for Nikki Haley. Look, less than 36 hours prior to the kickoff of the New Hampshire primary, there were 3 people in this race, right? So there's a little bit of digesting that's going on, and there's no question this was a great night for Donald Trump, but I'm not convinced it was as bad a night for Nikki Haley as it seems to be.
No, and let me try this for both of you and go back to Michael. Let's make this fluid. Not a bad night for Nikki Haley. She had a very upbeat speech. I think it's the nights and the days ahead that get difficult for Nikki Haley. She's not all in Nevada. Yep. And then in South Carolina, Trump's got Tim Scott. He seems to have it's a Republican primary in South Carolina. It's her home state. Trump's got a big lead there, arguably a stronger lead among the base than he had here.
Yep.
And if you're in her shoes, hold on. If you're in her shoes, this is what I'd be thinking. And Michael, both of you, if you're in Nikki Haley's shoes, do you want to lose your home state badly? And then what? See what I'm saying? She's got to win South Carolina. If she knows she's not going to win it, it's almost a futile effort.
Jack, I just got off the phone with ABC News. Here's what's going to happen. She's going to go through the motions for the next 2 weeks. She obviously is going to get. She's not even in the Nevada contest. She's going to go through the motions in 2 weeks, and then she's going to drop out before the South Carolina primary. Remember, this has to sink in with people. She lost Republicans 75 to 25 yesterday. That's not even close.
And you need Republicans to win a primary.
And you need Republicans to win. In South Carolina, it's an open primary, but there's not registered voters there. They don't register. So there's going to be very little independent turnout. It's all Republicans. I've been through the process twice in South Carolina. She's going to get killed. It's not even going to be close. And I truly believe she's going to end up dropping out.
Yeah. Mike, I think you may be right. Here's my concern, or one variable that we have to think about here, which is, what do the donors want to do? Where is the money going? What are they going to want to? Well, it might, because they may want an option who is not Trump to be available, etc.
Vikram, you're absolutely right. She may stay in the race because her donors want her to, but it won't influence the vote. So she'll go through all these primaries, losing 75 to 25. She won't get any delegates. And then she'll ruin any career she has.
Yeah, but so if you look forward at the calendar of the upcoming primaries, which ones are open or semi-open, whatever they call them, where independents or anyone can vote. On that list, Mike, you got South Carolina, Michigan, Virginia, Texas, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Vermont. They all allow independents and Republicans to vote.
And most of them are winner take all. So they're not proportional.
No, I get it. I get that.
So yeah, it's a giant futile effort. No one's going to be able to convince me that yesterday was anything but bad news for Haley, and she now just has to think about her future. How long is she?
Yeah.
Look, John McCain, when he won in New Hampshire in 2000 and decided to obviously go on to South Carolina, he won the Republican vote in New Hampshire. He beat George Bush 44-36, and then he got 65% of the independent vote. Nikki Haley doesn't have a case to make because she's getting killed among Republicans. You can't run for the Republican nomination winning independent voters.
I think there's a. Go ahead. Finish your thought, Michael.
Yeah, she won't get enough delegates, and they won't nominate her at the convention because she's being voted by independent voters.
There's another thing that I think you touched upon that we haven't said, and I want you both to comment before we go to break. And thank you, Michael Dennehy Belay Group, is your stock. Everyone looks at stocks. You look at the markets, Dr. Vic. You have to look at your political stock. And what is your stock brand and value today? Yep. And she came off a pretty good showing last night in New Hampshire, held her head high, upbeat speech. Yep. If her stock is going to drop going forward, why stay in?
Yeah. Look, I think that was the big reason why DeSantis probably got.
Yeah, you got to know. You got to know when to get off the stage without someone telling you,
"Yep,
this isn't going well for you."
Yeah, look,
because you know what? People remember you know what I've noticed? It was true with Richard Nixon. It's been true with a lot of things in media in my life and my media set of glasses, Michael, is people remember the last note. They remember the last story. They don't remember the whole thing. Yeah. So they're going to look at when DeSantis left, where did he leave at the moment?
Number 2 in Iowa.
Yep. Nikki Haley, you get a good showing in New Hampshire, probably the best night you're going to have because so many independents voted. If it's going to slide downhill from here, you got to do the cost benefit analysis. You got to be mature about it. She is very smart person. She's going to look at this and say, look, I got a pretty good record overall. You know, if you're a pro athlete, you don't want to stay in and, you know, J-Dog, you don't want to baseball. If you're a 320, 310 hitter, you don't want to stay in and be a 160 hitter.
Look at how long Ted Cruz stayed in. He stayed in longer than he should have.
Yeah, that hasn't served him well.
Yeah, but he ended up coming around, and he ended up being one of Trump's biggest supporters and still is to this day. But yeah, she's young, obviously, and she's got to think about her future and what is best for her and how she, like Sununu always says, how are we going to grow the Republican Party? It's not going to serve her well to battle Trump needlessly for several months.
Right. And real quickly, Michael, if she does, we don't know. She may stand up the Mongol. She may surprise all our analysis here, which is totally fine. Free country. If she does bow out, does she do what DeSantis did and endorse Trump or just bow out?
I think she does. I think she ends up endorsing Trump.
Okay. We have a question from a listener named Patty. Was this the highest Republican turnout in the primary, Michael?
Oh, without a doubt. Republican for
highest number of votes.
The final numbers.
Republican.
Yes, it is. Yes.
All right. Take a quick break. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa. Thank you, Michael. Play the Pulse of NH. Back with Dr. Vic in a moment. Tell us a little bit about the Generalist.
Okay. Perfect.
Start your day with the news you need, information you want, and
All right, we're going to come back to some of our analysis, but real quickly, Doctor Vic, um, the book. Tell us about it. The Generalist. It's
Yes.
out. What's it about? Give
Yeah,
me the
so
elevator pitch.
the elevator pitch is pretty simple, Jack. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. It's called The Making of a Generalist. Subtitle is An Independent Thinker Finds Unconventional Success in an Uncertain World. Jack, it's about my story where people are putting labels on me left and right and how it's been tough to navigate that. But sticking with the independent thought actually has proven useful for me. I tell the story about what happened at Harvard, how they loved me. I won teaching awards, and then, you come out as a Republican, that label that doesn't work for them. There's other stories like that all through earlier days. A little bit of the origin story of my life and my father coming from what is today Pakistan through India to the United States, being super proud to become an American citizen. So it's a personal story, but it's really one that hopefully inspires readers to think, hey, you know what? Think for yourself. Don't worry about labels. Treat everyone with respect. Look widely. Be open-minded. That's it.
Timely, good book with all the stuff going on. Hey,
Yeah.
let's get back to just a couple things before we go to the. We have some great sponsors this morning. Bob Jackman, Laval, Middleton Building Supply. We're going to catch up with some of them because it's been an interesting few days of national politics here in New Hampshire. Talking about weather patterns in your home. Going to hear also from our friends at Guyton Forge Financial. Reminder, by the way, Nissan in Stratham, the Auto Fair Nissan in Stratham, right off exit 11, Auto Fair Nissan in Stratham. They still are offering $500 this month. Additional deal, whatever you get, new or used. Just say Jack, an additional $500. Auto Fair Nissan in Stratham. Just ask for Adam. $500. That will get you a few groceries. Dr. Vic, I'm looking at the primary. So Joe Biden, got the headline they wanted. They got enough write-in votes not to be totally embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But the Democrats, whether they want to admit it or not, they have a problem because there's no energy around the Biden candidacy, none at all, and that's just a fact. That's not even a political type point of view. It's just no energy there.
Yep.
Now their theory might be going into a general because the other thing I asked last night, I want to ask you this: if 80% or so of the polls nationally of people, all voters, all parties, young and old, don't want Biden and Trump again,
Why would
why
they?
why is that exactly what we may get? Why is that?
Yeah, look, Jack, I think part of it's the primary process for sure, right? So when we say 70% of Americans don't want it, that's a generic across the board thing. And it may be that, 70% of Democrats don't want Trump and 70% of, Republicans don't want Biden. And, each side wants their player in the fight, so to say. So that could be part of the story as well. But I think, look, we need alternatives. We need competition, more people, more ideas. That's what a primary process is about. And, you've seen what's happened on the Democrat side. They're sort of avoiding it. They're not doing it. They're hiding from the competition of ideas, of course, with the exception of Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson. So I think that's part of the story as well. And look, we're having still, I would argue, a vibrant Republican primary process. Yes, it's narrowed down to a couple people, and that may end up with just one person pretty soon. But I'm optimistic. I like the competition of ideas, Jack. I think that's part of where we got and why we got here.
Yeah.
But look, it's a great question. Why are we getting what none of us want?
Yeah, and it's something I said yesterday. I almost feel as much as the national media seems to not like Trump, maybe other than Fox, but I'm talking CNN and all the national media. Boy, they put Trump in the news a lot. You can't turn on a newscast, and I think this is part of the subtle problem that a lot of the Republicans had, and they don't understand it, even back to 2016. Donald Trump is such a marketing genius, like him or not, despise him or not. He's got his brand and his name everywhere. The media loves it. Those debates were irrelevant because Trump wasn't there. He knows it. He plays it like a fiddle.
Yep.
They if you watch CNN, you can't watch 5 minutes without 47 mentions of Trump.
Yep.
So how do you, when that much news, good and bad, how do you get that much name recognition? He's got so much brand recognition.
Yeah,
It's
look,
hard.
he's playing the game of all publicity is good publicity, right? He's playing the victim card. Look at the whole system's coming after me. And by the way, I'm representing you. They're coming after you. I'm taking the bullet for you. And it seems to be working, right? So one of the things in fact, Jack, not to go back to my book, but one of the things I suggest in the book is, look, we should all diversify our media diets. if we broaden the perspectives we're exposed to, it'll be easier to think for ourselves.
Well, it's happening with younger people because people don't know this, but younger people look at CNN and Fox as archaic.
Yeah.
I'm talking 20-year-old.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is not just moving beyond those networks. I'm saying if you watch Fox News, turn on CNN
Yeah,
also.
well, it's called an open mind.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Everything's in a
Exactly. But people are
silo.
not doing that. They're
I
living
know,
in
I know.
silos. They're being specialists.
Well,
And I'm
but the
saying
problem is, so
break
is the
the
media.
silo, become a generalist. That's what you need to do.
Look at I was, I guess, technically I was a journalist when I was a TV reporter. You reported on the news, right?
That's right.
I'm a news talk host now. It's different. Give opinion. But half the national media, these anchors are political activists, and the people watching don't want that. But anyway,
That's
hold
true in
that thought.
academia too, by the way.
I know. Well, that's another subject for
let's
another day.
rile you up a little bit. We'll go to climate change next.
By the way, does Harvard did they have a new president yet? Are you in the running?
No, are you kidding me? Jack,
right.
I couldn't stay in the running to be a lecturer.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about changing weather patterns in your home. Our friends at Laval and Middleton Building Supply. Reminder, Tenny Mountain, the official ski area of Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age. Back in a few. All right, we are back, and we'll see where all the politics goes. We'll take a quick break. Always like to take a great break for your home, your house, your condo, your dwelling. Bob Jackman, Laval and Middleton Building Supply, joining us. Bob, we're through a lot of the political stuff, but the weather patterns, we got to pay attention to those because we've had a weird month or so. Cold, warm, ton of rain, ton of high tides, ton of water in places like Portland, Maine, the seacoast. Then cold, Now, back and forth weather patterns. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, at least. Yeah. And what I find, Bob Jackman, Lavelle, Minute Building Supply, and you have some great education and products and awareness where people can get help and expertise. Um, is water is like smoke. It will find the smallest openings to go, and it will go into the walls. It might go into underneath a dormer. You don't know it, and all of a sudden, and then it freezes again. Next thing you know, you could have an issue. So water will find that opening, right? Now, tell me some solutions, Bob. What should people do? Yeah. Yeah. Versus the hundreds, yeah, versus the dollars it would take to fix something with an ice dam. Thousands. Yeah. And this back and forth weather stuff is ideal for that stuff because in February we could run into a real cold snap where water is built up. The other thing too is I talked to someone, because in our market, Bob, and of course La Valley Middleton building supplies, you have locations all across our region. Sometimes people have a ski home, a second home. They haven't been in a while. And to be frugal, they might keep the temperature in the house, lower to save some money when they're not there. I just talked to someone. They went in the other day because last week, if you remember last weekend and that cold snap, and they were glad they went by their house because they weren't, it's not a ski house, it's just a North Country kind of getaway. And he said the house was freezing. It's good. And he goes, I'm glad with all the weather changes that went in to turn the heat up. Yeah. 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 You got to keep up with it. That's homes. And, Bob, great. I remember a story years ago. We had we're going up north of the Notch up near Mount Washington a lot. We pulled into the place on a Friday night, kids, and, sort of like in the Plymouth, Lincoln area. It was cold. Might have been, 10 or 12, but it wasn't like we get up to the Mount Washington. It was like 12 below zero. And when that heat is not working or a pipe is frozen, and it's 8 o'clock at night in the dark, and you're trying to get someone to come thaw that out, it in the house, and you go inside, it's like an ice box. It's not too comfortable. Yeah. Well, Bob, I know you love boating, and I saw you up with our friends at Goodhue Boat Company at a couple of our moats. You're out there on the lake. Same with the boat. Every time you go out, you're going to be thinking, okay, what can go wrong? What do I have? What do I need? Because you never know. Bob, best way to people learn more about whether it's the ice dam stuff, the roof, the walls, the windows, best way, doors. Yeah. I would I I would guarantee that someone in the LaValle Milton team, if Bob doesn't, you'll find that expert. And we've had Jay Lucas on talking about the Sunshine Initiative. I know you two talked recently. Coming up, at some point, I want you to talk more about your modular home division out in the western part of the state. I think that's fascinating because I think that's a growth that's going to only grow. Good opportunity for employees, good opportunity for customers. So one of the times I want to focus on that again. Well, and also, controlled environment on the building. It's tough to get a lot of people out there working and out in a cold winter, get a foundation and you're building a house, you frame it, bad weather comes in, they close it up as best they can. These things are built in controlled environments, right? Yeah. All right, Bob. Catch you real soon. Thank you, Bob. We come back, our friends in the Manchester VA. We'll talk about more transportation services for our veterans out there. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget our veterans. It's very easy to get distracted and caught up in some of the other stuff of the day, like politics. Top of the 10 more analysis. Nikki Haley, can she stay in this thing long term? Like she said last night at her second place finished speech. We'll find out. Some of our experts. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Back in a few. Sig Sauer, great company, great employer, great manufacturer, great location over Pease International Trade Port, not far from one of our other sponsors, Guyton Forge Financial. We hear from them as well in the next hour. You know, with all the political stuff, that's why about was it J Dog? A month or two ago, was it November? We did a veterans town hall. It's so easy to forget about, and we're so wrong to do it. So wrong to do it. Our veterans. I was just reading about the two great, unselfish, quiet warrior Navy SEALs that gave their life in Somalia. Our veterans are out there of all ages and stages in life. There's great people trying to do some good work for them. Our friends at the Manchester VA joining us. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age. Julie Vossi, I guess we'll call deputy director of the whole thing. And she's talking a little more about transportation because it's such a big part for veterans, especially if they need some help out there. Julie, take it away. Well, it was great information. I'm glad he's back. Hey, Michael. Well, a little tired, but I'm doing okay. But no one cares. Michael, you reach a point in life, no one really cares when they ask how you doing. No one really cares. You know how it is. Right. I bet you, Michael and Julie, once they find out more about this, they must be very grateful and really appreciative. Yeah. Now, on the end of delivering that, are you still looking for folks to help transport? I asked before, Michael, what are some of the not qualifications, but what do you look for in ideal volunteers or people to help out? Great stuff, Michael, and I appreciate the part two on transportation. Julie, before we go, we have a couple moments. Any other general facility, time of year, trend, any other updates you want to get in there for veterans and their caregivers? All right. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Julie. Enjoy the mixed weather today, and we'll get you back again soon. Best to Kevin Forrest. I appreciate it. Thank you. Take a moment on something that should be said. And I don't know if it has been this morning. I heard Michael Graham from New Hampshire Journal on with Mike Pomp, the Morning Information Center. I think Michael touched upon this. Ted Kitchens, Manchester Boston Regional Airport, touched upon it. Kudos and thanks to all the folks in New Hampshire behind the scenes in all these town halls or schools, not town halls, but all the schools, the towns, the voting places who were there to make sure everything was done up, above board and proper. Secretary of State's office deserves a kudo. I mean, the record, it was a huge turnout, maybe not quite that 320 and 322,000 number Secretary of State Scanlon predicted, but pretty darn close. Um, all the people that take part, the people that hosted the participation process of the primary, whether you went to events to meet these candidates, you actually voted, you hosted events. And I'm going to just say this, part of our problem in this country, and Dr. Vic alluded to it in the last segment, is everything is just so political and divisive for a bunch of reasons. I don't blame any one person for that. I'm just saying everything is. Then I think the national media, no disrespect, often, you know, accentuates or deepens that sometimes. Too much negative. But kudos to the candidates who ran. Kudos to the candidates who ran because you don't even understand the toll it takes. Now, yes, they chose to run. They may have been governors, but you don't. It's a grind that Trust me, you wouldn't wish it on your. I'm just telling you. Real quickly, Chris in Florida. Good morning, New Hampshire. The pulse of an age. Go ahead, Chris. Well, I'd answer it this way, Chris, twofold. One, no, it doesn't because her real problem was she didn't get enough Republican support. She got a lot of independents. The story being circulated, and Donald Trump was on my show yesterday morning for 15 minutes, and so was Nikki Haley before him, is not a lot of Democrats actually voted for Nikki Haley. We had a period back in the fall where if you were a Democrat, you had to actually file. You had to file, and a very small number did. So you couldn't just show up yesterday, Chris, as a Democrat and say, "Hey, I want to vote for Nikki Haley," and screw the whole thing up. Her real problem, though, Chris, and I think your question's a point and a good one. Her real problem going forward is there were a ton of independents who voted yesterday, and she did better among them. But the Republicans, that core Republican primary voter, which you're going to see in South Carolina and downstream, Trump, he cleaned house. So that's her challenge going forward. Well, I think it's no, well, maybe Chris, you never know. It's too early from yesterday. You're not going to see a quick dropout. I suspect I may be wrong because she's been great. I like her and respect her. Nice person. I was just talking about the families who run. She's been very gracious every time she comes in. I think she's going to do a serious evaluation process over the next 10 days to 2 weeks. I think she's not really all in Nevada. Chris, she doesn't want to go into her home state in South Carolina and lose by double digits. There's no upside in that. Trump's got a better positioning actually in South Carolina than he did in New Hampshire. I suspect she'll probably bow out where her stock's kind of high right now or higher. So I'm guessing it just takes a little while. You don't just drop out the night you will. You got to think about it. You got to meet with your team. You got to talk with your family. She'll make a decision. My suspicion is 10 to 2 weeks, Chris. Not sure, but it doesn't necessarily preclude him getting the nomination. So I got to run, Chris. Thanks. Good morning, top of the 10 o'clock. You Florida listeners, I love it. Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an age.